And so the stock of the day is one with news flow. It is also one that is internationally exposed in really many fronts. IDP Education says that it's changing the way it reports its student placement revenue. This means a downgrade to FY26 guidance, with some revenue being accounted for in FY25. Student placement revenue will now be recorded at census date and not at registration, which means that revenue will be recorded at a later date for Australia and the UK, and aligning with current US and Canada practices. This would increase FY25 revenue, decreasing FY26, as I said. Revenue and earnings down by around $2 million on this accounting change. It's been a tough year for IDP over the past year, losing around 50% of its share price value. And a lot of that is due to concerns and the reality of caps being put in place for international student numbers. Now, let's start with Mark Gardner from MPC Markets. IDP Education. Look, some say there's really great value because the underlying business is still strong.
Yeah, I don't think they're wrong necessarily. But I just don't see nationalism taking a backseat in the coming year, particularly with Trump in power, and I just I think they're going to still face headwinds leading into next year overall, and I think there's going to be pressure on migration. There's multiple protests all around the world, and I think this has probably done well to survive, and I think there's a fair bit of faith out there from the fund managers. It's been like one of the top picks of fund managers every year for 4 years straight, and it's been on the decline. But I think at some stage in the future they will be in the box seat once the cyclical turns around and we start to see that nationalism calm down a little bit globally, and then it'll be a great time to buy it then. But at this point, I'd probably say it's a hold for me. I mean, erring on the side of a buy, but because I think that they will tick along and survive. They do look quite cheap, and it has stabilised for the first time in quite some time. And if they can get a catalyst sometime in the next sort of 6 months, and a bit of technical momentum, I wouldn't mind having a look at it then. But at this point, I just sort of say it's a bit too much risk for me, and I would rather spend my money elsewhere.
Thank you. Henry Jennings, Markets Today. IDP, the stock of the day. Value now or value trap until we see some sort of a meaningful turnaround?
I think it's hard to get massively excited about this one, to be quite honest. I mean, the changes they've announced today brings it sort of into line, so that's good in terms of coordinating that revenue across all their jurisdictions. I guess there is a smidge of a possibility that with the US clamping down quite so much on visas and quite so much on allowing or even encouraging people into the US to study, we could pick up some of that slack, which is a positive, and maybe that's the catalyst that we'll see. But certainly, the student backdrop does continue to deteriorate. The brokers are pretty ho-hum about it. I have to say I'm pretty ho-hum. What's interesting is Mark says, it's been a firm favourite with the fund managers. Well, I don't know who's selling it, because 11.5% of this one is shorted. That's 32 million shares. So, every now and then it does get this sort of short squeeze, a bit of a short covering squeeze higher. And you can't possibly rule that out if we did see a positive catalyst. But I think, as Mark says, with the increasing pressure on immigration, increasing pressure on student numbers, etc., it's hard to see the light at the end of the tunnel. The good thing is these guys have done well with what they've got. So, it's about controlling what you can control, and that is a positive. I think at these sorts of levels, what is it, 560 odd? It's probably a hold. I'd say there's an upside probably to $6, but I think there you'd be a seller.
So that is the stock of the day, IDP Education, and that is a firm hold from both of my guests.